So I have the pleasure of being in a profession where I get to share the history of Connecticut's indigenous people with thousands of visitors and school students um, a year. And it is really an honor for me. With our museum, we don't just talk about things from the archaeological point of view, we also add the indigenous point of view as well. So it's a more well-rounded history that they're learning. And I just love to see their expressions when I tell them that indigenous people have been here in this area for over 12,000 years. This is a time when there were beavers the size of bears, where there were big hairy elephants walking around called mastodons, and their eyes pop wide open. And I talk about how changes over time based on new developments, the climate changes, um, and then interaction with new cultures comes about. When they hear about how Native people were eating with the seasons, harvesting certain, foods during different seasons of the year, and talking about how in touch Native people are with the land and the resources and how protective they were. And I also share that 7-generation principle where they didn't only think about their 70 years on this planet, they thought ahead. And they worried about what the land would be like in future generations as well. We talk about many different things. We talk about the different hunting tools they use, such as a spear, and then the development of the addle, the tool so cool they named it twice, and how that development improved the way that they hunted. We talk about the development of a way to travel on water and how that changed their lives so drastically. I talk about how they would chop a tree down using both fire and a stone axe. And it gives them a different opinion of Native people. If you just see a stone axe in an exhibit, a child looks at that and thinks, wow, they were like cavemen, very primitive. But when you tell them how that Native people would use fire as a tool as well, their eyes pop open. And they often say, wow, that's brilliant. And I think that's what we need to do. We need to show that Native people weren't primitive savages. They were very intelligent and very wise. I also share the story of the Three Sisters Garden, because that was another very important time in their lives, because now they had a reliable food source. And by telling that story about the Three Sisters, it helps them remember that way of planting and the reason why those plants were chosen. So I'm going to start with that a Haudenosaunee version of the Three Sisters. A very long time ago, there were 3 sisters who lived in a field. The youngest was so small, she couldn't walk yet. She just crawled about on the ground. She was dressed in green. The middle sister wore a bright yellow dress and darted back and forth across the field. The eldest sister stood tall and straight. Her body never bent. She was always straight and standing tall. She had long yellow hair and wore a green shawl. The 3 sisters loved each other and could not imagine living apart. Well, one day, this young boy came to visit the field. He was very handsome and knew ways of the land. He would talk to the birds and the animals, and he was very fearless. The 3 sisters were very interested in this boy as they watched him use his stone tools and carve a bowl or hunt with his bow and arrow. Later in the summer, after the boy's first visit, the youngest of the 3 sisters disappeared. She was the one that would creep and crawl all along the ground. She could not even stand unless she had a stick or something that she could cling to. So they couldn't imagine where she could have gone to. The two sisters were very, very sad. That boy returned to the field, and he started to, gather some reeds to make shafts for his arrows. The remaining sisters watched again and were fascinated. But that night, the second sister disappeared, the one who always wanders to and fro all around. Now there was only one sister left. As sad as she was, as heartbroken as she was that her two sisters were gone, she still stood tall and straight. She did not bow her head in sorrow, instead remained firm in the ground. As the days grew shorter and colder, her green shawl began to lose its color, and her yellow hair began to dry and get tangled. She so missed her sisters. One day in the harvest season, the little boy returned to the field, and he heard the third sister crying, and he felt sorry for her. So he took her in his arms and carried her to his home. And she was delightfully surprised. When she got to that boy's home, she saw that her two other sisters were there. The sisters were making themselves useful to the boy and his family. The youngest, now all grown up, kept the dinner pot full, while the second sister, still in her yellow dress, dried herself out on the shelf so they could fill the dinner pot later in the winter. The eldest sister was so pleased to be with her sisters again and so impressed with the help they gave the boy that she too began drying herself out so the family would have meal to use later on in the winter. And from this day forward, the three sisters were never separated again. So this story helps children remember, those three plants, the corn, the beans, and the squash, that grew together and helped each other grow, much like sisters and brothers do when they're growing up. So, like I say, in my profession, I get to share this type of information with students to help keep it, in their minds, and so that they remember. And quite often, I'll see that same child that came on a school trip years later, and they still remember that story, and they still remember how that three sisters garden was supposed to be planted. Now, I also tell children's stories in my job, and I learned my stories from watching people over my lifetime. My Aunt Trudy Lamb Richmond was perhaps one of the biggest influencers in my life. She taught me many, many different stories, but I also learned stories from other elders that I've met along the way. When I first became a storyteller, I was gifted a storytelling bag made out of rabbit fur. And I used this storytelling bag to help me remember the stories that I want to tell. Inside my bag are things that help trigger my memory, little finger puppets. So you'll see me grabbing into my bag so that I can keep track of which stories I told and which ones I want to tell next. So I'm going to start with one of my favorite stories. A long time ago, animals didn't look the way that they do today. Let's talk about the rabbit. The rabbit had teeny tiny little ears. They were smaller than a mouse. And because he had such tiny ears, he had trouble hearing. One day, the animals in the forest were having a wonderful celebration, and they wanted Rabbit to join them. Raccoon ran up to Rabbit and said, "Rabbit, bring your drums, bring your rattles. Meet us down by the river near the oak tree. It's going to be a wonderful celebration, and we so much want you to be there. I'll see you there." And Raccoon ran off. But because of those tiny ears, Rabbit didn't hear him. So Rabbit yelled, "What? Huh? I can't hear you. Can you say that again?" But it was too late. Raccoon was gone. A little while later, Fox came up. "Rabbit, the celebration is beginning. We don't want you to miss anything. Hurry up. Meet us down by the river near the oak tree. It's going to be a wonderful time. We know you would enjoy it." And he ran off. Excuse me. Again, Rabbit couldn't hear. So again, Rabbit yelled, "What? Huh? I can't hear you. Can you say that again?" But it was too late. He was already gone. Rabbit started to get sad. He was wondering what was going on. Finally, the deer came up to him, and the deer said, "Rabbit, hurry up. Meet us down by the river near the oak tree. The celebration is going to be ending soon, and we know you would be so disappointed if you missed it. I'll see you there." And the deer galloped off. Again, Rabbit couldn't hear. So again, Rabbit yelled, "What? Huh? I can't hear you. Can you say that again?" When Rabbit looked out into the forest, he realized something. All of the animals were gone, and he was left there by himself. This made him so sad. He sat on a log and he began to cry and cry and cry. "Why have they left me here alone? Where were they going? They all ran off in the same direction. Why didn't they invite me?" And he cried and cried. Well, there's this magic man. His name is Guskabi. And Guskabi, he has a really important job. He makes sure things go smoothly with the animals and the people. Sometimes it's a little bit difficult. When Guskabi saw that Rabbit was crying, he wanted to help him. So Guskabi went up to Rabbit and said, "Rabbit, why are you crying? Can I help you?" And Rabbit looked at him and said, "What? Huh? I can't hear you. Can you say that again?" So this time, a little bit louder, Guskabi yelled, "Hey, Rabbit, why are you crying? Can I help you?" And again, Rabbit looked at him and said, "What? Huh? I can't hear you. Can you say that again?" "Oh, no," said Guskabi. So this time, Guskabi took a deep breath in, and he yelled at the top of his lungs, "Hey, Rabbit, why are you crying? Can I help you?" He yelled so loud he almost passed out. Rabbit looked at him and said, "What? Huh? I can't hear you. Can you say that again?" "Oh, Rabbit," said Guskabi. Excuse me. "I'm going to help you, Rabbit," said Guskabi. So Guskabi went in and grabbed those little tiny ears on the rabbit. And Guskabi started to pull on them. Well, Rabbit didn't hear him when he said he was trying to help, and Rabbit panicked. So as Guskabi pulled this way, the rabbit pulled that way. And they pulled this way and that way and 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 stretch. "Oh, no," said Guskabi. "I think I pulled your ears too hard. Look what I did to them. They look ridiculous. You can't run around the forest looking like that. Don't worry, Rabbit. I will fix them. I will put them back just the way they were." And with that, Guskabi put his hand over Rabbit's ears to fix them, and Rabbit yelled, "No! Stop!" I wonder why Rabbit yelled, "No, stop." He yelled, "No, stop," because he can hear. And he said, "I can hear beautifully now. Leave my ears just the way they are." This is a beautiful story that teaches a wonderful lesson to children. In their lifetimes, they're going to meet people who are different than them. Maybe they can't hear or see. Maybe they can't walk or talk. They still want to have fun, just like you, right? So there are ways that those animals could have communicated with Rabbit, seeing that he was a little bit different than them. They could have used sign language, hand motions. They could have grabbed his little paw and led him there. They could have written a note and handed it to him. They could have brought the party to Rabbit. There were many things that they could have done to help include Rabbit in the fun things that they were doing. So the next time children see somebody who's a little bit different than them, try to include them in on the fun things that you and your friends are doing. Because if it were you that were different, would you want to feel left out and alone? That's one of my favorite stories. It leaves such a powerful message behind. Let's see who's going to come out of my bag next. Chipmunk. I have learned many, many different versions of how Chipmunk got his stripes. My favorite version comes from Janice Foreheart's Whispering Us, a Schaghticoke woman that worked at the museum with me. A long time ago, animals didn't look the way that they do today. Let's talk about the chipmunk. The chipmunk was solid brown, very boring in color, and a very curious fellow. He would go up to everyone he met, chattering about, chattering about. He was often a pest and an annoyance, and people would tell him, "Go away, leave me alone." He wasn't a very good listener, though. One day, he decided to take their advice. He went off to a forest far, far away, a forest he had never been to before. And he discovered new hills and new valleys, new rivers and streams, new stone walls to climb upon, new trees to climb up. While he was up in that tree, he spotted a new friend. It was a bear. He ran down that tree. He ran up to that bear. He climbed up that bear's leg, up over that bear's hip, onto the bear's body, and he jumped on that bear's shoulder, and he yelled in his ear, hey bear, let's go fishing. Hey bear, let's climb the mountain. Hey bear, let's pick some berries. Come on, bear, said the bear. Go away, leave me alone. You make too much noise, and I do not like that. Chipmunk wasn't a very good listener. He snuck over to the other side of that bear. He climbed up that bear's other leg, up over that bear's hip, onto that bear's body, jumped on that bear's shoulder, and he yelled in his other ear, hey bear, let's go fishing. Hey bear, let's climb the mountain. Hey bear, let's pick some berries. Come on, bear, said the bear. Go away. I told you, I do not like that chatter. Leave me alone. I am not going to warn you again. What do you think that chipmunk did? Do you think he listened? No. He snuck around to the back of that bear. He climbed up that bear's back leg, up over that bear's rump, onto that bear's back, tiptoed ever so gently onto that bear's head. He popped down and he yelled again, hey bear, let's go fishing. Hey bear, let's climb the mountain. Hey bear, let's pick some berries. Come on, bear, said the bear. I warned you. And he snatched up that chipmunk and he held him tightly in his claws. Uh-oh, thought the chipmunk. I'm the perfect size to be a bear snack. I better try to get away. So Chipmunk did what chipmunks do better than anybody else. He wiggled, and he wiggled, and he wiggled, and he wiggled, and he wiggled so much he was able to break himself free, but not without the 3 claws of that bear, leaving stripes down his back. And you know this story is true, because when you see a chipmunk today, you see those 3 stripes that he carries. And he's learned his lesson, because he no longer runs towards you chattering about. He runs away. Now, in this story, once again, it's teaching a very valuable lesson. It's teaching that you need to respect people's boundaries and respect their wishes. If someone doesn't want you to do something that you're doing because they find it annoying, you should respect them and not do it. But it also teaches a lesson that parents have been teaching their children since time immemorial. And that is, be careful of strangers. So stranger danger is something that's been around for a very long time. Another one of my favorite storytellers is Dovey Thomaston Sickles. She inspires the way that I tell my stories, with the uh, animal voices and facial expressions and stuff. She has been such a mentor to me. One of my favorite stories of hers is how Frog came to look the way he does today. A long time ago, frogs had big, sharp teeth, and they would use those sharp teeth to crack walnuts because walnuts were their favorite food. They felt so good in their belly. But Frog, he wasn't really a go-getter. He wouldn't go and get his own food. Instead, he would hide and watch others. He watched one day as Squirrel was gathering nuts for her children. Squirrel dug up her cash from the year before and looked down to see what she had in reserves, and there wasn't much there. And she screamed, "Yikes! Winter's cold, winter's long. I have many children and they eat a lot. I better go get some more nuts." So she ran out into the forest and she gathered nuts and gathered nuts and gathered nuts and gathered nuts. And she came back with a whole armful of nuts to drop into that cache. She looked down into that cache and she said, "Yikes! I don't think that's enough. Winter's cold. Winter's long. I have many children and they eat a lot. I'm going to go get some more." So she ran back out and she gathered some nuts and gathered some nuts. While she was gone, Frog came out of his hiding place and he hopped over to that cache of walnuts. And he stuffed them in his mouth and he stuffed them in his mouth and he cracked them with his big sharp teeth. And oh, they felt so good in his belly. When they were all gone, he hopped back to his hiding place. Squirrel came back with her arms full of nuts. She went over to her cache. She looked down and she said, "Someone has stolen my nuts." She dropped what she was carrying inside and she ran off into the forest. But this time, she didn't run off into the forest to gather more walnuts. Instead, she went to go tell someone about what was happening to her walnuts. She found the maker of all things, and the maker of all things, well, he knows all things. And she said, "Someone is stealing my nuts. Winter is cold. Winter is long. I have many children and they eat a lot. I am doing all this hard work for nothing." "Don't worry," said the maker of all things. "This isn't right. I have provided enough on this planet for everyone to have what they need in order to survive. No one should come along and steal someone else's hard work. Don't worry. I will get down to the bottom of this as soon as I can." So that night, he called a meeting of all the animals, and they had a great council. And Maker of all things spoke. He said, "We have a problem here. Someone is stealing the work of someone else. It is a long and cold winter, and people need to prepare for that. It's not right that someone else is coming along and stealing the food that someone else worked so hard for. Whoever it is that is stealing Squirrel's nuts, if you come forward now and you admit to what you're doing, nothing bad will happen to you. We just want to make sure that this behavior stops. Who amongst us is stealing these nuts?" And he waited and he waited, and no one came forward. And he was very disappointed. He said, "Well, I see that we not only have a thief, but we also have a liar, someone who's not willing to admit that they've done something wrong. I'm going to ask you once again, who amongst us is stealing someone else's hard work?" And he waited, and again, no one came forward. Maker of all things pointed to Bear, and he said, "Bear, did you steal Squirrel's nuts?" And Bear said, "Ha, certainly not. I am Bear. I am big. I am strong. I shake the tree. The nuts fall down. I gather my own nuts. I don't need to steal them from a squirrel." "Calm down," said the maker of all things. "I'm just checking." And he waited, and no one came forward again. So this time he pointed to the snake, and he said, "Snake, did you steal squirrel's nuts?" "Certainly not," said the snake. "That's a silly question to ask a snake. What would a snake do with walnuts? Snakes have no teeth." Maker of all things chuckled, and he said, "Relax, Snake. I'm just trying to get to the bottom of this. But you know, Snake, you've given me a good idea." He said to all the animals in the forest, "Tonight, when you are sleeping, those of you who are innocent will have the most spectacular dreams. You will have a beautiful, restful night's sleep. When you wake up in the morning, you'll feel so refreshed. But that one amongst us who is a thief and a liar, you won't have a good night's sleep. When you fall asleep, you will have terrible nightmares that will haunt you. And when you wake up in the morning, something about you is going to change." So all the animals went back to their homes. The bear, he slept wonderful because he didn't have a guilty conscience. The snake, he slept wonderfully as well. All the animals were sleeping wonderfully, having beautiful, fantastic dreams, except for one, the frog. The frog thought, if I don't go to sleep tonight, I won't have those nightmares, and I won't wake up with something changed. Ha! I think I've outsmarted that maker of all things. So he tried to stay awake. Now, I don't know about you, but whenever I try to stay awake all night long, it never works. I end up falling asleep every time. But the same thing happened to Frog. And while he slept, he had these horrible dreams, and he tossed and he turned, and he was so restless. And finally, in the morning, the dreams were so bad, he woke up. "Oh no," he said, "I fell asleep. I wonder what it is about me that might have changed. I better check myself out. Maybe it was my belly." And he looked down. No. Oh, my belly's the same. I love my belly. I love it just the way it is. Oh, maybe it's my front legs. So he looked at both of his front legs. Oh, they're just the way they were. Wonderful. I love my front legs. Oh no, maybe it's my back legs. I need those legs. He looked at his big, long back legs. Oh, thank goodness. I need those long legs in order to hop. I wouldn't be able to hop without them. Ah, maybe I outsmarted that maker of all things. Maybe he didn't realize it was me. I'm going to start my day. So he went outside and he hopped over to the edge of the pond for a drink. And when he looked down into that pond, that's when he realized what it was about him that had changed. Those big, sharp teeth that he had were gone. "Oh no," he said. "How will I enjoy walnuts again without my teeth? How could he have taken that away from me?" And that's why today, when you see frogs, they no longer have those big, sharp teeth. And if you listen real careful around the ponds and the streams, you can hear those frogs calling for the things that they miss so, so much. Listen real careful and you'll hear walnuts, walnuts, walnuts. And this is why sometimes Native children, when they lose their tooth, They don't put it under the pillow for a tooth fairy. Instead, they take it over to the edge of the pond and they fling it in the mud, hoping that a frog will come along and pop it in their mouth and be able to enjoy those walnuts once again. I love that story. It teaches you that it's not right to steal, right? And that, telling the truth when you do something wrong is always the best thing. If you try to lie and hide it, it only gets worse, right? Okay, let's see who's going to come out of the rabbit bag next. Aha. This is another story about how things came to be. In the beginning of time, it was decided that each and every creature on this planet would get to decide what it looked like. Would it have fur or would it have feathers? Would it fly or would it swim? Would it tweet or would it growl? Every single one of these unfinished creatures would sit with the maker of all things, and those things they needed in order to survive would be discussed. One day, the maker of all things saw an unfinished creature rolling down the path. He picked him up and he sat him on a log. "Hello, little one," he said. "I suppose it's your turn today. Have you given any thought to what it is that you need?" "Well," said that little one, "I'm tiny. And because I'm tiny, I think I need to hear when danger's coming. I need strong ears." Maker of all things says, "I see you've given this much thought. There's no reason why I couldn't give you long, strong ears so that you can hear in every direction if danger's coming. Is there anything else you think you need, little one?" "Well, if I hear danger coming, I think I need strong legs so I can run away." "Aha, little one, I'm very impressed with you. You have given this so much thought. Along with those long, strong ears, I'm going to give you strong legs so you could run away from danger. Is there anything else you think you need, little one?" "Well, sometimes you can't run away from danger and you have to stay and fight. I think I need some kind of way to defend myself. I think I need a weapon." "A weapon," said the maker of all things. "Weapons can be tricky. Along with a weapon, you need a strong mind so you know when to stay and fight and when to run away. But you've given so much thought to all of this. I am so very impressed with you, little one. Is there anything else you think you need?" "Well, I don't really need this, but I've seen it on a couple of your unfinished creatures. I would just love to have a long, 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 bushy tail. Can I please have a long, 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 bushy tail? I understand if you don't give it to me because it's not something I really need." "Relax," said the maker of all things. "You have given so much thought to those things that you really need in order to survive. I see no reason why I couldn't give you something just because you want it, just because it's pretty. Let's begin, little one." So the maker of all things went to the top of that little one's head and he spun the fur and kept spinning and spinning. When he had enough fur formed, he pulled it into a long, strong ear, and that ear turned in every direction. He went over to the other side of that little one's head. He made another puff of fur and he pulled that until he had two perfectly matching long, strong ears that turned and swiveled in every direction. He thought, what else did this little one need? Strong ears. He wanted legs so he could run away. So he went to where the front shoulder was going to be on that little one, and he made a puff of fur. And when he was done, he pulled out a little leg. He went over to the other front shoulder. He made another puff of fur and he pulled that out until he had two perfectly matching front legs. He spun that little one around and he went to where the back hip of that creature was going to be, and he made another puff of fur. But he was thinking about it. This little one said he wanted long, strong legs. I didn't do that on the front. I'll have to go and adjust the size of those legs in the front when I'm finished. So this time on the back hip, he made a bigger puff of fur and he pulled it until he had a longer, stronger back leg. He went over to the other hip. He made another puff of fur and he pulled that until he had two perfectly matching, long, strong legs. Now I need to fix those ones in the front. So he spun that little one around. And just when he was going in to adjust the size of that front paw, something in a tree interrupted. Hey, hey. I'm watching you. You're taking much too much time on that little one over there. I'm unfinished. It's my turn now. I know what I want. I want a long neck. I want red feathers. I want to fly night and day, and I want a beautiful song. And I want these things now. Well, this made the maker of all things angry. And he turned around, he looked in the tree, and he said, who dares to interrupt me? I'm in the middle of something very important here. This is none of your business. Turn away, look away. And he went back down to that little one on the log. Where was I, he thought. This little one wanted long ears. This little one wanted legs. What else did this little one want? He wanted a weapon. So he reached inside the mouth of that little one and he grabbed his top two teeth. And he pulled those top two teeth down until they were really long. Perfect, he thought. Now I just need to find a rock that I could use as a file to sharpen those teeth into fangs that he could defend himself with. So Maker of all things started walking around, examining different rocks. He finally spotted one. He said, that's the type of rock I need. And as he bent down to pick up that rock, something in the tree interrupted again. Hey. I told you it's time to work on me. You're taking much too much time, and I don't want to wait any longer. Get over here and work on me. I want a long neck. I want red feathers. I want to fly night and day, and I want a beautiful song. And I want these things now, right now. Get over here and work on me. Well, again, this made the maker of all things angry. And he turned around and he looked into that tree and he said, who dares to interrupt me again? I am in the middle of something important here. You are no more important than anyone else. You need to wait your turn, mind your own business, and look away. I am not going to warn you again. And he went back down to that little one on the log. Oh my goodness, where was I? He thought. All these interruptions. I can't remember what I was doing. This little one asked for long ears. This little one asked for legs. Little one asked for a weapon. What else did he need? I know there's something else that he wanted. A long, bushy tail. No problem. I got this. He spun that little one around and he started to make a puff of fur on that little one's rump. And he made it bigger and bigger and bigger and fluffier and fluffier and fluffier. And just when he was ready to take that puff of fur and pull it into a long bushy tail, something in the tree interrupted again. Hey. I demand that you get over here and work on me right now. I told you I want a long neck. I want red feathers. I want to fly night and day, and I want a beautiful song. And I want these things now. I am not going to wait a minute longer. Get over here and work on me. Well, even the maker of all things can lose his patience. He turned around. He looked into those bushes. He separated those branches, and he found that unfinished creature. I suppose you give me no choice but to work on you right now. Okay, you said you wanted a long neck. That's not going to happen. He took his fist and he went bonk on that little one's head. And he hit that little one so hard that his head sunk all the way down into his shoulders. This so startled that little one that his eyes popped wide open. You shall have no neck at all. This so startled that little one sitting on the log that he jumped off that log and tried to run away. We'll talk about that later. You have a problem, said the maker of all things, turning away and looking away. So he went to that creature and he took his head and he twisted it and twisted it and twisted it and twisted it all the way behind him in one direction. Then he took that little one's head and he twisted it and twisted it and twisted it and twisted it all the way behind him in the other direction. Now, you shall have the ability to turn away, look away, and mind your own business. You want red feathers. I am certainly not going to give you red feathers, for you already draw too much attention to yourself. So he picked up some dirt and he painted that one gray, white, and brown with some black. You shall be the colors of the earth, so you blend in and don't stand out so much. You want to fly night and day, night and day? That is not going to happen, because I see what you would do. You would interrupt me all day long, and I have all these unfinished creatures that I still have to finish. You shall fly only at night. For your song, I will give you a song, but it'll be a song with just one word, because I never want you to forget who you interrupted, who you disrespected, and who you made so angry. So this explains how that creature came to be. Did you guess what that creature was? It's the owl, right? Who was that creature on the log? That's a little trickier. The creature on the log, things didn't go so well for him. He wanted long ears, he got those. He wanted long, strong legs. Well, he sort of got those. He got short little front ones and big, long back ones. He wanted a weapon to defend himself. That didn't go so well either. He got long, long teeth that are beautiful to nibble on grasses, but they're not really sharp. They're not really going to defend him. And what about that long, long bushy tail? He didn't get that either. He ended up with a big puff of fur on his rump. Can you guess who that creature might be? The rabbit. Now, when the rabbit saw maker of all things bonk that other creature on the head, he got so scared because he didn't get that knowledge of when to stay and fight and when to run away. So he just ran away. But he didn't actually run. What do you think he did instead? He hopped, because he has these two short little front legs and these big, big back legs. And he didn't get that long bushy tail that he wanted. So things didn't turn out so well for that rabbit. There's a difference between the way the rabbit was asking for things and the way that the owl was asking for things. The rabbit asked politely, and he only mostly asked for those things that he really needed and explained why he needed them. There was only one thing that he said he would like to have, and he understood if he didn't get it. The other creature, on the other hand, was demanding, wanted attention right now, didn't think about that other person that the maker of all things was working on. He wanted things now. He demanded things right away, and he was interrupting constantly. So in your own life, when you are behaving like that owl, think about this story. Our parents, our teachers, whoever it might be, they're not octopus. They don't have 100 arms where they can do all these things at once, right? If you're a brother or sister and you come from a large family, your mother can only help one of you at a time. And she needs to help that one that needs the help the most. If you're that owl interrupting and demanding attention, that other person might not get those things that they really need. So try to be patient, try to be kind, and try to think about those things that you really need in life, not just those things that you want. That's one of my favorite stories. And it's a story that I've been telling for a long time. And in my house, my son's 40 years old. Whenever someone in my home is behaving in a very demanding way or interrupting a lot, all we say is, who is that behaving like that? Who's interrupting me? Who's being so rude? And as soon as you say that word, who, they understand, because of the power of stories. Stories have that effect on people. I've used stories as a way of discipline, of teaching a lesson. Sometimes through a story, you could change a child's behavior. You know, there's specific stories that teach, you know, specific lessons, right? And other cultures have done the same thing. So I encourage people to learn the stories from their culture. One story that comes to mind that I use in storytelling to show that, you know, the power of stories is I ask the children if they've ever heard the story of the boy who cried wolf. And they all raise their hand. And I'll say, what's the lesson in that story? And they all say, don't steal. Don't lie. If you lie too much, people won't believe you. And excuse me, I have a little bit of a cold today. And it helps remind them that the power of a story can stay with you throughout a lifetime. So I hope you enjoyed my stories. It's one of the most rewarding things that I do in my life. There's nothing like seeing the faces of those children as you tell those stories, and quizzing them on what they've learned. You know, what was the lesson inside of that story? I belong to the Schaghticoke Women's Traditional Council, and our council's mission is to preserve, protect, and pass down our way of life. So with my profession of, you know, working in a museum, a Native American museum, telling the history of my people, as well as telling the stories of my people, is such an honor and something I take a lot of pride in.